hey, carriers, 95% of that data is low fidelity that you're getting. Wouldn't it be wonderful if, as a restorer, you didn't have to do precise guesswork based on all these underdefined variables on day one, and instead you just bound it towards, hey, let's go dry out by volume. I don't like a world where, assuming that the same outcome was performed and the work was performed in a workmanship type manner, a restorer that dried down a property in 6 days should not, in fact, get paid 100% more than a restorer that dried that property down in 3 days. That's bizarre. How can I get restorers paid with less administrative burden, less software, not more?
This is Phil Rosebrook, partner at Business Mentors, and you are listening to Restoration Edge. Welcome to the Restoration Edge, the people and products behind smarter restoration. Today, I'm really honored to have Mark Whatley, sometimes known just as Whatley or Hey Whatley, as my guest. And I think we're gonna take a little trip here on a whole bunch of different subjects. There's a couple of things that I think are really important to talk about, but I find Mark to be one of the really bright minds in restoration, somebody who sees where we came from and where we're going to, and can kind of break some of that stuff down to you. And then he's also created some solutions for the industry, and I want to really dig deep into those things as well. So we'll just start with Mark. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Let us know kind of where you came from, and then we'll talk about Actionable a little bit. But tell me about you.
Where did I come from? Phil, I came from Claremont. That is not a wealthy suburb of San Diego. And I had proximity to wealth, but I didn't actually have any in my family. And so in pursuit of that, I ended up working in the trades, like 12 years old, like doing hardcore running around, doing electrical work for a guy named Dictator, and learning how to pull wire, so on, do that. I worked for a flooring contractor through my sophomore, senior year in high school. And then while everybody in college, was working at, say, TGI Fridays or Nordstrom, I was working for two big builders doing ADA expansion, American Disabilities Act, and I would run my crew of 4, and I thought it was so weird, Phil, because I was like, 20 years old, and I'm telling a bunch of 40-year-olds what to do, but I could do math, and I showed up on time, right? And so in the trades, you kind of end up leading a small crew pretty quickly. But anyhow, that gave me all a foundation in the trades, which was useful later. So out of college, I did a short stint in the private equity ecosystem. I found that to be unfulfilling, but I made a few bucks, and when my firm shut down here in San Diego, I thought, well, what could I do next? Moving around money and playing with spreadsheets is not super fulfilling. We had $20 billion under management at Pacific Corporate Group, and you'd think it was fulfilling. But like, if you're winding down the Jedi One fund from the Enron deal, you find that kind of soul sucking. Yeah. And you're like, okay, what could I do next that would be fulfilling? And so I pragmatically selected for the restoration ecosystem because I was harmed by the 2008 financial crisis, and I wanted to select for something that would be buoyant in a down economy, but also wedded what I knew about construction. And so I went in with a partner, Jason Widmer, who had a janitorial company at the time, and I converted it. It was like Keep It Clean Janitorial, and I converted it immediately to KIC Restoration. And started having problems that restorers, come up against. I can remember the first claim I had, Phil, with KIC Restoration. Okay. Yep. We get this check. It was like $28,000. It's a huge check to us at that time. And it had the mortgage company on it, like State Farm included the mortgage company on this check. And I didn't know what to do with this situation. I was desperate to figure.
Just sign it.
Yeah, right? Does that work? Mitch Byram was actually my Xactimate level 1 teacher. He came through San Diego, and he was training me up, and he went around the room. He's like, all right, what's your one question that you can't solve in your business, right? It's kind of this challenge of stump the trainer. I was like, mortgage company, I can't. He's like, I don't know, bro. It's impossible. So basically, I functioned as a restorer trying to figure it all out just like you guys, but I had this experience of building an independent, never working for a large franchise, never working for a big company, and there was just all these unanswered questions. And so what I have done and spent the last 18 years doing, Phil, is going, what problems did I have as a restorer coming up? Okay. Could I solve for some of these problems? And the reason, to wed it all back and weave it back into like the story of that one check that I couldn't figure out how to get out of the mortgage company, I ended up being so consumed with that problem. 12 years later, I went and fired up Surety to go solve that problem for underwriting the double indemnity risk so carriers can omit putting a lender on the check as a payee. And we've made headwinds there, and we've definitely influenced the industry and how they deal with claim checks relative to indemnity payments in the PNC ecosystem. So I'm proud of that. And so I just keep going. I'm a restorer, and I'm going to go solve these problems. So I still own some legacy brands that perform more traditional restoration work and pack out work, but that keeps me connected to the problems that are on the ground. And I make sure that I'm not building solutions in search of a problem. I'm building solutions that are for a real problem. And often I'll build something quietly. I'm building several things right now, Phil, that will just be for my internal businesses. And then if they're successful within my businesses, then like 2 years later, I bring it to market once it's refined.
Yeah, I'd question you if you weren't building something right now. Yeah, I think one of the challenges as you grow a software company, you've seen it time and time again, is you get a client and they're really good, they love your product, like, hey, it'd be great if it did this. And then the next one says, it'd be great if it did this. And all these great ideas now get mashed together into a product that's so enormous that nobody can use. They don't know how to make it function. I think that's one of the challenges you guys have in trying to design a software system for multi-users. You want to be attentive to your clients and their needs, but you really have to have a core product that people use. So
Agreed.
yeah.
Yeah, the core product is important. I think the flexibility of the software is really important because each restorer, they call the same thing different things. Like how many folks have you and I worked with that's like, wait a minute, a project coordinator, that's really a project estimator at this shop, but it's a project coordinator here. And then you got a project director here, but that's an estimator there. And then you have a project executive, but that's really a VP there. And as you think about how they organize a project, like they just do everything different from one shop to the next. And so if you can build in some flexibility with your product, that's where I think you get the best outcomes because you don't have the one for many problem. By the way, a one for many problem. I have built things and brought them to market that were just like, here, this is the best we could do. Remember born out of like, I built it for my own company and I brought it to market. That is, I have for sure done that. I'm so guilty. We strive towards building in that flexibility later to allow people to customize the product to serve their individual process. It's beautiful when software can be flexible enough to mold to existing processes within a business. Because I think any restorer listening, like, oh, what software solutions of Whatley and Phil think I need now? Because they have this aversion to it because they've already tried to adopt the last two things that we talked about, right? And one of them went okay, and one of them didn't go away, and they're harmed from that.
It's another subscription times 10 seats that you got to put out.
Like, we're getting to a world where software should be able to be flexible enough to mold to existing processes instead of requiring all the change management to wed and change the field processes to work within the software. And I'm excited about the next decade that way as a builder and as a restorer.
Hey, one thing that I want to do, I want to jump into something. I want to start talking about software that works. And you have a product. You came up with something a long time ago. You can bring me through the journey, but you created Actionable Insights, and then you have a number of things that work off of that. So give me a kind of rundown on what you created, what you did, and that evolution, and where it is right now, and how restorers should be using that.
That's a big question. All right, I'll try to keep this concise. So imagine 13 years ago, we're like, okay, I'm a restorer. Remember, independent, all right? I don't have a big shop. I don't have a Ted Foster at Belfour to go to answer all my questions. So what I do, I just duped a bunch of restorers who were my friends, just showing up to my warehouse once a month. And we'd start talking, and I had my team put together these slide decks that were like, here's the line items for like a high-grade shower surround. And we'd say, like, these are what we think are warranted. And we get the room to agree. We did this for 2 months, Phil, just restorers. You know who showed up? AAA. Then Pure, then Allstate, then NatGen. IA started showing up like, okay, cool. We were like flattered. And so then we
Yeah.
started having conversations like about what was reasonable and customary, and they felt very organic.
Hmm.
And so that's the DNA of Actionable. It wasn't even a nonprofit, dude. It was just me getting together with my friends talking about like, why won't they pay for this? Like I thought,
Hmm.
because you if you're a restorer and you're trying to figure out the game, what's one of the first things you do? You buy this thing called Xactimate.
Yep.
And then there's this prevailing idea that like, okay, if I don't deviate from the price and I use their published price list and the scope is correct, then they will pay the claim unencumbered. By the way,
Hmm.
I think that was true when I started.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's true today?
No, no. Hey, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to date myself in just a moment and talk to you kind of a similar story. So, we started out with a non-branded estimating software back in probably 1991, 1990, and we realized, oh wait, you know what? It's all going to Xactimate. My dad, he was smart and just looking at trends, and so
Mm-hmm.
he said, you know what? We need to adopt this. We need to understand it better than the adjusters, so we can teach and train them, so we can dictate scope, and then it's going to make
Mm-hmm.
everything easier. And at that point, that was the tool, and it really
Right.
made sense at that point. And I think that was kind of your ideas in trying to develop this was just a talking group to use this tool that everybody uses. That if we do it better, we can find a little bit more money at the end of the day. That helps us run a better business. So,
Yeah, I was trying to transcend those like good faith arguments when you're restoring. You're like, I don't know, I just estimated the lower cabinets and I included toe kick because at that time that wasn't included in the line item explicitly. And then an adjuster would say, oh, the toe cook's not included. Well, at that point, 13 years ago, that was a problem in the price list. The price list
yeah,
has a toe kick, but it says it wasn't included or excluded. Now, lower cabinets explicitly define that they're toe kicks, but there's all those situations where you're like, okay, I'm trying to do the right thing. Why is there that pushback? And so that's what Actionable was exist to solve for. After doing that meeting for 24 months, we fired up 4 other chapters. We're going nationwide. I'm managing all that, Phil. And I'm like, this is a bizarre. Okay. And then who's now the deputy attorney general, a friend of mine tangentially in the space, he works a lot with the carrier side of the house, but he was like, wow, you should go set up a 501c6. He's still on our board today, 13 years later, Tim Van den Heuvel. But he helped me set up the 501c6 nonprofit trade organization that was Actionable. I felt like I was kind of drug into it, dude. It was kind of like my Xactimate training. Like I became an Xactimate trainer because I did really well on the level 3 exam that I took for I don't know what reason to flex on the rest of my staff. Probably.
right.
No ego here. And so I think John Glissmeyer from the training department was like, Whatley, you did great. You should be a trainer. I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm flattered. Okay. And so I did it. But I think Actionable was something that's always just pulled me into it. And it's the same thing that's happening right now. I have my other business ventures going, Phil, but at the outset of this call, you and I discussed not that interested to unpack those. Like Actionable always draws me back in. It's like a black hole. It feels really rewarding, the work that we do here, and I think it's generally appreciated by the industry. And the fact that we are welcome in rooms with the carriers around the big wooden table, and the fact that we're welcome in around the big wooden table with a bunch of restorers, that's awesome. That's really special and unique. And I think that's what's required to actually build standards in an industry. Yeah. If you're just building towards the interest of one side of the claim, then it's difficult for that to emerge as any kind of standard that could be seen as fair and reasonable.
Yeah. So I'm going to go a little more nuanced into this as well. So when I first heard about your product, and Russ Palmer, a mutual friend, had told me, he says, "Hey, have you seen Actionable Insights yet?" And we're going to get Actionable Insights. We're going to talk about a couple of other things you're doing, and I said, "Well, no, tell me what it is." He says, "Phil, when you used to start, you're writing Xactimate estimates, and you wanted to detach and reset a water heater, and you had exactly about 3 items." It was maybe the main 2 were detach water heater, reset water heater. Yep. And he says, you know what? There's 12 items now. He said, you never know that. There's 12 items because Xactimate changed how they set it up, and they wanted to make this product for everybody in every situation. He says, do you know what? There's a decoder ring. You can log into here. Go log in right now. Go look, go getinsights.org. log in, take a picture. There's going to be a diagram of a water heater, and it's going to show all of the actionable or all of the Xactimate codes. And then there's going to have a description of what kind of why you should have each one of those. And there's going to be a list of code upgrades that you might include and a support line item or entry for why you would need each one of those. So that was my introduction to Actionable Insights, and I think that's probably the core of what your product is still.
The first product was just a bunch of people getting together, right? And then they were like, you know what they asked me for, Phil? They would be like, hey, give me that slide deck from the high grade engineered flooring installation, right? Because they were trying to remember what the dustless sanding with the diamond grinding new line item was. So they go, okay, well, they send that over. And so that kept happening to me like several times a month. Maybe like 100 people show up, 20 of them would ask for the deck, or they'd ask for the deck from 3 months ago. I'm like, this is interesting. So what'd we do? We took those decks and we turned them into a 4,000-page book, which is the Insight Sheet database, which is the umpire's mitigation and the umpire's repair manual. And we made these books. These books are this thick, okay?
Yeah.
And we printed them. We have an IBM number. I don't know. Like, we're like, okay, we sell this book. We sell this book still today. It's bizarre to me. You guys still buy it?
I might have room up
Right,
here. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you for your support. But that's where we started, Phil. But then we realized nobody really could find what they needed. Remember that example about the detach and reset the water heater from Russ Palmer? That is an Insight sheet. There's that diagram. And then we map to all the auxiliary line items, which are, it's not a supply line. People go PLM, SUP. That's for a traditional sink. It's actually a copper supply line. And the supply line is bizarre because PLM, SUP that everybody's familiar with comes in a pair. These are built individually. And so you got to map like, you need 2 of them, right? And then when you install those, you also need the insulation that goes around that copper, right? That's like commonly omitted. But if that's in a non-living space, then that's the code. You need to insulate that, right? Okay, that's got to be done. And then if you've got the pressure release valve, you've got to have the PVC that would go and drain that out. Then you've got the drain pan itself, right? You got to contemplate that. You got a hammer arrestor on it, and you might have, it's considered a closed system in California. So code, we have to put an expansion tank now on our line items. Dude, that's like $900 right there. That's your whole DNR, detach and reset, right there. And to know why was what was in our book, and we are substantiating that with the California building codes from the municipalities that are enforcing those codes. And so ultimately, that book became a searchable database, and we charged $7 a month for access to that database, and it actually sold pretty well. And did its thing, and we did that for years. And then we got really into the private training game. So all the like $40 million and $400 million restorers and up, like they all hire an Actionable. Why? It was because we were out ahead with how do you get the most out of geospatial data and wedding that with Xactimate. That was our specialty. So we did that. All along, we built AIMC, Actionable Insights Matterport certification. And so we had a learning management system. And so I remember flying out to go see Justin Woodard shop. You ever work with them, Phil?
No, I haven't.
Okay. But you know the shop, of course, right?
Yep.
And so if we fly out there and I'm in front of 300 people and I'm like, I'm not going to be doing this much longer. It's kind of a bizarre way to talk about it. But I was explaining
sounds like my kids.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, guys, I'm spending 70% of my life on the road training you guys. I'm downloading my brain to the computer. This is what's going to happen next year. And so we took the book to Insight Sheet database to specialized training curriculum. And then what we do, we were mapping the 17,500 line items, understanding which ones were accretive and which ones were mutually exclusive. So once you have mapped all those, you can start working that into rules. And we started working on that through another venture I own, which is called Impartial. And then that got the interest of Verisk. And then that started a conversation about what rules are you guys sitting on over there? And how could that be useful? Because we're thinking about building a rules engine. And then Verisk and Actionable developed a strategic partnership back in 2020 relative to a product called Exact Expert. And so now all of the Actionable curriculum sits within Xactimate, and that's really where it belongs. In so much as if you think about what we've built, it's a spell checker for your estimate, but it's firing in real time. And so any other spell checker that's been built before or after, it's kind of like if your spell checker wasn't in Microsoft Word and you had to write it in Microsoft Word and then save it, create a PDF, send it somewhere, get a report back, another PDF, and then make the change. Probably more elegant if it just underlined in red a misspelling.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that's where we were at the outset. And what we've really done since is to go beyond just basic algebra where, hey, you have drywall, you probably need texture. Now we have more of a Grammarly approach. And so it's looking at where is this estimate located and who is this person and what are they doing within this estimate? Is it mitigation? Is it repairs? Is it contents? And the rules are responding to all those variables, trying to constrain the noise. The trick is when you're running 17,500 rules, Phil, which is now what Actionable's running and serving up to our customers, you get the one for many problem. So right now we're shipping 7,500 rules to all of our customers. And some of our customers don't like 2,000 other rules. They see them as noise. And so we got to do our best algorithmically to constrain the erroneous alerts in favor of tuning into the signal and tuning down the noise, which we have done, but it's getting better all the time. And then by the Super Bowl next year, our customers will actually get full control of their rules, and they can go disable and enable the rules as they see fit, and they can even change and update them, what they say and how they behave. And so essentially we're going to be giving the world all of our IP that we've been beavering away on for 7 years, and we're going to go, here you go, this is it, and this is what we've done, and then now you can go make it yours. And that's how I believe we're going to solve this one for many problem.
So I'm going to bring this back, actually make this, we'll call it more actionable for somebody who's watching this. Okay, so your product is available as a part of Xactimate or as a resource to Xactimate, so they're going to you to find this, and then it's attached to Xactimate or it's coming through Xactimate. So explain that process and how somebody's going to use this, where they're going to find it, and then let's give a user case example.
Yeah, so same way that you would become a member of the RIA, and that would come with a whole collection of benefits, like their affinity program and so on. Like, for one, we give 10% off there, so there's a shortcut.
Bam! All right.
For the affinity program, so you become a member of the RIA, you get all these benefits. Same thing with Actionable, same tax status. You're a member, you get all these benefits and like within our product. Essentially, what Verisk created space for is they created space for Actionable to build a custom version of Xactimate, Phil. So for 30 years, you and I've watched Verisk create space for USAA and for Allstate and Nationwide to build their own profiles, okay? Wouldn't it be nice if, Actionable could show up and build something for restorers by restorers? We still give credence to both sides of the claim. It's not like our brand is known for turning up the volume to 11 on everything. But we did modify the program such that its waste calculations reconcile with modern building methodology, and we're proud of that, and it's totally defensible. And so how does that express? If you just use our custom version of Xactimate, you will find another 2% profit for doing exactly the same thing, and you won't notice any difference at all, because mathematically in the background, we've done things to reconcile with modern building methodology that frankly just needed to be upgraded. And that product is how a number of things get delivered, which is within the actionable profile. We also have actionable alerts. Those are the 7,000 and a half alerts that sit within Amber Lee's product, which is called Exact Expert. So Exact Expert is like this umbrella of a expert system rules engine, and Actionable's like the tuner. So think of Ford is to Shelby, is Verisk is to Actionable. Like, we're the tuner. We're pushing the limits. We are the ones who are always crashing their servers. We're the ones who are always finding the problems before other big accounts are finding. That's our job. And so we take pride in that. But we push the limits of like what nobody else is running this kind of rule set. Phil, there's nobody in the industry that has even close to this many rules. Like, we have an order of magnitude more than anybody, but we're also the ones that are pushing the software to the limits, right? So we're seeing the performance issues, so on. That's our job. We run that back to Verisk. Verisk builds a better product. And so You've got the actionable profile, you have the actionable alerts, but there's a third product that we are introducing that is shipped with this. And the week you will release this video is the week we
Yes.
will, in fact, release it. Phil,
Okay, breaking news.
you
Breaking
ready,
news.
dude?
Here we go. Boom. Come on, Kachi, get this. Get this.
Actionable is getting into the pricing game. So we are publishing the Actionable Published Price List. The first edition will be August 2026.
Okay, so I've had people asking me about custom price lists. Is this akin to a custom price list, or tell me how this is going to work? Because that's a big, bold statement that has been the kind of the secret sauce to Xactimate for so long.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, well, you and I've seen this happen before. Other people have showed up and said, "Oh, doing this price list," but I think what they've done, I don't have a better way to say it. I think it was lazy. So to just factor the Verisk price list up by 10% is like, it's not defensible, okay? And then Ben Justison did some great work to establish the foundation for like why a custom price list would be meaningful and useful within a restoration company. But frankly, even though I've watched him speak and you'd think that I could follow along, I don't know if I could do it to his specification. It's so complicated to do.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I would struggle and you and I could know that there's a kernel of truth there, then it's probably likely that very few restorers would have the resources required to execute against Ben's direction, even though it's great.
And no offense, Ben, because if you get to watch this,
we should all strive to do what Ben's doing. But let's just say that we're not all there yet. Okay. What out of the box how could we solve a problem? How could we introduce a price list that would be welcome in the eyes of Verisk? Because if you just show up with a price list and you're deviating from the price list, you know what you're telling Jason Taylor and Greg Pine over at Verisk is your price is wrong, my price is right, right?
Yep.
And that's not what a good strategic partner does. Okay. So we've shown up with a price list that is essentially an amalgam of existing line items that already exist. Mm-hmm. To go up a trophic level, that for line items that are built for the demands of the era with an eye towards AI. I know where the people that are using computer vision are struggling to get to estimatics. I know exactly where it is because I have the scars to prove it. If you know where those problems exist, then you can start building line items that help create space for where are we trying to go, Phil? Where's this industry going? Image to scope. Like everybody's talking about it. But it's been very elusive, right? And why has it been very elusive? I'll give you one easy example for the audience to follow along. If you've got lower cabinets, you've got a choice between economy grade, standard grade, average grade, high grade, premium grade, deluxe grade, custom grade, commercial grade cabinets, okay? So you and I couldn't agree on looking at an image, whether it's a premium grade or a high grade cabinet, right? You and I would struggle. Ben Justison would struggle, right?
So we're all going to just push it to premium as much as we can.
Sure. It depends on where your biases exist, right? But that's not a great answer, and that's where computer vision's breaking down. Well, somebody needs to come around and come up with some line items that help solve those problems. Like maybe it's a little too granular at this point if we're going to leverage AI to be going, oh, is that 5/8 inch drywall or is that 1/4 inch drywall? It's 2 cents a difference for the gypsum board per square foot. Who cares? Like we're talking about the entirely wrong thing. Yeah. And so Actionable is now reaching into the future, and we're building novel line items that solve traditional problems. And so here's what we're coming out with the block with. Easiest one to follow is all-inclusive containment line item. We think it's bizarre and suboptimal that just when you include containment, you've got to go and augment the containment. You know, it's 6 mil polyurethane. It's actually visqueen is the components build up for the line item. You got to go augment that with what? Zippers. Now, is it light zippers? Is it heavy zippers? Are they doing dual zippers so you can roll the DHU through? Or are you doing a single zipper so you have to lift it up through, right? You and I've seen both in equal parts. Okay. And then you got your air filter it's a newer line item, by the way, new air filter for your containment. So if you're going to do any negative air and exhaust outside, you would need to have that filter. Otherwise, your containment would collapse. So that's another nuance you got to consider. How about containment posts? This is a mess. You got containment by square footage. Now I got containment posts that are billed per day. Say I'm doing a 4-day dry out, right? How long are my posts going to be up in your experience as a restorer? Is it going to be 4 days? Are we ripping them down on the fourth day, or what's happening with those posts?
Yeah, usually about 8 days because
Yeah.
we got busy and couldn't get back there.
Yeah.
So,
There's a
and it
number
was
of
Friday
reasons, right?
afternoon. It was Friday afternoon.
Or even
Yeah.
like they're doing the repair and you're going to keep the same containment up because you want to constrain all the drywall dust. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's bizarre to bill for something per day. Okay. Fundamentally, what is it? What is actionable? Because remember, I've got the carrier side of my board. I got to serve somebody something at the table. I don't have to serve them the same thing. Any line item you create either bends in the direction of the restorer or a carrier. Let's start there.
Yeah.
But I want to serve something to everybody at the table. Not everybody gets the tomahawk, but you got to serve something. What are we serving? Do you think carriers really like all this MICA mandates and all the psychometrics and trying to ingest this dry down reports? Because grew up in a world, Phil, where you didn't have to do any of that. You just threw some DUs and air movers and you sent your damn bill and you got paid. That all showed up in 2012 where like you had to sit. I remember the first time I was asked, well, where's your dry logs? My what? We didn't even know what it was. That was an invention of the carrier. Why? Because they wanted to constrain warehouse dumps, because some restorers were throwing in copious amounts of equipment for durations and densities that made no damn sense, because we have all these perverse incentives. All you have to do is follow the incentives. But Phil, I think I'm at this point in my career, I'm willing to take some risks to try to solve some real problems. I don't like a world where, assuming that the same outcome was performed and the work was performed in a workmanship type manner, a restorer that restored dried down a property in 6 days should not, in fact, get paid 100% more than a restorer that dried that property down in 3 days. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
So what Actionable is attempting to do in the spirit of preserving the health of the restoration ecosystem is get us to a point where, okay, maybe we should bind the economics of this line item to results, as opposed to like ethereal variables like equipment density or dry out days. So how do you do that? You go with dry out by volume, Phil. Okay, we did all the math.
Chuck DeWall was telling me this 15 years ago, saying that's the only way to do it. And for whatever reason, we just can't get from here to there. So yeah, you betcha.
We can't, but it's been a lot of work. And also this whole motion took us 2 years, Phil. We've had a collection of 78 ICRC rules. So it doesn't matter what you do in Xactimate. If you deploy air movers, DHUs, negative air scrubbers, trailer-mounted desiccants, trailer-mounted generators, we guide you for what would be reasonable and customary. We give you a window. Think about like bowling. Yeah. We put bumper guards up. Yeah. Okay. I'll tell the audience what it is. You got 16% between our rules where we're saying, hey, you have too many air movers or you have too few. Okay. And if you get no alert, that means you're in there, right? You're bowling a strike or at least a spare. Yeah. You follow? So for 2 years, those were battle tested. And we got a feel for, okay, these work. The industry responded well to them. We reverse engineered that mathematics to get us to a point where we can issue a dry out by volume line item. And I think this solves a number of problems. How about the TPA contract? You ever hear a restorer complain about the 24-hour upload SLA?
Never.
Okay.
No.
So what a precarious situation to be in as a contractor. Sure. Like, you want me to upload my invoice for a job I just got within 24 hours and I have to guess whether it's a 3 or 4 day dry out? Like, those listening to this cast know why that exists, but I'm not going to say it explicitly. But wouldn't it be wonderful if, as a restorer, you didn't have to do precise guesswork based on all these underdefined variables on day one, and instead you just bound it towards, hey, let's go dry out by volume. I'll tell you the math right now, Phil. It's based on a 3.5 day dry out. We thought that was very actionable style. Yeah. A lot of people we talked to wanted 4, right? A lot of people we talked to wanted 3. You can imagine what side of the claim they're on. We thought, we're going to split the baby here. So we did a 3.5 day dry out. And so then it was just a matter of like, how do you build up around that? So the equipment was all defined by AHAM calculations for DHUs. Then the air movers were defined by S500. Negative air scrubbers are defined by the S520. So that's done. And so we have a collection of dry out by volume line items, both for regular hours and for after hours. And they're made to run in concert with where I started, the all-inclusive containment line items. And so with 2 line items, you have estimated a mitigation estimate.
Hey, if you like what you see here today on The Edge, we really do our best to bring you valuable content to help you improve your restoration company and help you make more money, make your company more valuable. So if you like that, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, share this podcast with other people. Get the word out there, because this will help our podcast become more robust, stronger, and be a better resource to you and to the industry. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much. So let me take the cynic's view of this. And so let's say we take it was always a square foot price that I think that rolled out in Canada for a while, and depends on the market.
Yeah.
It was $4 a square foot or whatever it was. And so the problem with $4 a square foot or $6 a square foot, let's take six because it gets on the higher end, $6 a square foot. So now the problem with that is $5.94, $5.90. So it's not, it doesn't become this increasing or something that takes into account our cost structure on it necessarily. It's just it's this negative feedback loop that doesn't go up, it goes down. And so that's where some of these unit cost pricing, somebody would challenge that, try to poke a hole in it. And does that hold any water? What does that do for, the opposite side? I'm gonna argue both sides. The opposite side is we got to dry out, and we couldn't get it done in 3 days. We're going to take 5 or 7, and we're just going to bill for all our inefficiencies. And so, you take the opposite side of it. So maybe speak to that if there's anything to speak to, because I just maybe did.
It's kind of 4 questions in one. All right. Why the square footage motion, it was about 10 years ago. It didn't play out in part because restorers don't have a deep trust in the price list, maybe the way they did when you and I started.
Yeah.
And Verisk is under a lot of pressure from the carrier side of the house, and you see it in their product. You know where you can see it? Like in the shadows. If you ever look in Exact and you're like, wait a minute, tax on O&P, no O&P on tax, or tax just on O but not on P. Like, what is that? Like, I don't know. I don't have any specific information, Phil. I'm just speculating, but that looks like a lot of undue carrier influence, just like wrenching down on like every aspect of the product, and Verisk doing their best to like listen to the demands of their customers. I think that the square footage price, there wasn't the trust in the marketplace that maybe Actionable has, that we're really trying our best to not disrupt the economics associated with the most profitable function in restoration. It's not lost on us. We know. We know the danger. How would you do this? Well, you would partner with the world's largest restoration companies. You get some data sets about like, hey, give us some claims that like settled well and reasonably. And then you would use those as your baseline for comparing the economics between your line item approach by volume, and then comparing that to mitigation sheets that have already been paid. And so that volume variable is a pain in the ass, because you have to manually like figure out how to get it, because it's not actually in the estimatics, but it's not that hard to get through. But some manual work, some AI work, you can get to reasonably high fidelity. But you're doing that in concert with the right people that are going to substantiate that this is a fair and reasonable approach to claim settlement. 3.5 days, Phil, you're going at risk at the outset. Yeah. It's possible it might take you 4.5 days, but it's also possible you can get this crap done in 2.5 days and get on to the next job, and that's okay. And I had one guy I really respect. I won't say who it is, but hurt my feelings a little bit. He's like, well, Whatley, it's fraud. It's fraud if you get it done in 2.5 days and you bill for 3. And I'm like, what? How immature is that, Phil? Think about the line item that you started this cast with, about the detach and reset for a water heater. You get 5 plumbing hours to do that. If you and I hire a plumber and that plumber gets it done in 3, then good on him. Yeah. Wouldn't we want that? So we don't, this whole idea that would be fraud is just how we've totally lost our way in this industry, such that Actionable is doing something that's creating space to put the perverse incentives in the rearview mirror, incentivize performance, and then it's being met with like this notion of fraud. Like, good God, the last thing that are dry up by volume line items should ever be accused of is fraud. Exactly. I think it's, you take it the good with the bad. Sometimes you get it done in 2.5 days. Sometimes it's going to take you 4.5. And I think that's the promise that I would have with a carrier. I built a brand around that at KIC Restoration, is not supplementing carriers, saying, hey, if you agree to this $370,000 for this fire, you won't hear from me. I'll get it done, so on. That was part of my brand promise. And I think some of that DNA probably bleeds through in our approach here. We want restorers to take the good with the bad, use the line item, get paid fairly, move on. And I think this will incentivize restorers and equipment manufacturers to outperform. And I think it will reduce the administrative load on restorers. You know, that's where a lot of our margin went, Phil, over the last 10 years, is because we thought carriers kept getting on stage at the panels. They would tell us they just want a better documentation and communication, okay? And everything was going to be fine. It's not true, dude. It's not true. No. I was up there. I thought it was true. I was promoting it as true. It took until Alex Duda got on stage recently. He's like, how's that working out for you guys? Yeah, it's not. And where I'm at right now is how can I get restorers paid with less administrative burden, less software, not more. Okay? That's where my head's at. Imagine how much effort is going into filling out a Mika. It's like you got to build the sketch again. It's not in Xactimate. I got to define all these variables. I got to get all these psychometrics. How much software, how much human capital are we? What if you didn't have to do that, dude?
I think that would be smart.
What if it's just one line item and you're done?
So that's the estimate part of it. And then for the contractor, they're going to do something that works for them that isn't mandated by the insurance company that proves that the job is dry. So when they get a call 2 years from now saying, I've got mold, it's your fault, come fix it. It's like, no, here's my documents, here's my image, here's my report. But it's our choice, not mandated.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
I'm not saying don't CYA, okay? You want to get in a IH and go, you want a great CYA? Bring in an industrial hygienist, have them clear it, find somebody to bill to, and do it that way. Go nuts, okay? I'm not saying don't protect yourself. I'm just saying protecting yourself should be a business decision a restorer should make on their own accord, and it shouldn't be mandated by a carrier who doesn't even actually want the data in the first place.
Yeah.
They just don't want to get ripped off. Which makes sense.
There's so much grief that is coming from some of my larger contractors that every time they hire a new employee, they got the technicians out there and, they didn't do the Mika right. Let's go make it up. Let's go figure out what it was, report it, recreate it so we get paid for it. And it's so crazy.
Which you and I know. I'll say it on this podcast. You're dancing around it. Hey, carriers, 95% of that data is low fidelity that you're getting as it relates to dryouts. It's just low fidelity. I'm not saying that restorers are lying. It's just low fidelity. So you guys do what you want with that, but maybe we could transcend it all together. Or Phil, we do this, dude, and nobody adopts it and nothing happens. And you know what? We tried. Like that's it. We're still in business. We're making this motion. We're doing the best we can. We're doing it for absolutely the right reasons. And we're going to see how the industry responds. But I think 10 years from now, when trial by volume is a set standard, that could be an interesting way to dent the property insurance ecosystem in a way our board would be quite proud of.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think in some ways you got to look at where our industry has a lot of influences in auto glass, auto body, and that's pretty consistent with the way they're doing things. And so, it's much more complex in restoration. I get it. So, but if we can simplify the estimating process, and that's the opposite of what we're doing with some of the other estimating and pricing models that are out there, which are even more.
They're going more granular. Yes,
oh, God,
dude, I think you could go this trophic level for a number of things. Contents for roofing. I think counting roof jacks is silly. Like there's probably like a reasonable amount of roof jacks per square one could do. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Like there's just a whole different trophic level that goes if we really want image to scope, if we can agree as an industry that we don't want to spend that much human capital on putting together estimates anymore, because you want the TPAs want that, the carriers want that, the contractors want that. Okay? You can't get there from here with these same land items, because I tried that and I got the battle scars to prove it. If you want to get from here to there, you're going to need a different suite of line items that go up at trophic level. We are at Actionable are selling a custom version of Xactimate. It might be like a custom version of HubSpot. You've got all these HubSpot resellers. They have custom versions of HubSpot, right? So we have our custom version of Xactimate. Is that our software? Is it Veritas software? Probably best described as our software.
Yeah.
Right? And we have some protections that Actionable. Veritas can't just give our work to somebody else and they go sell it, right? So it's our software, but it's delivered by Veritas. When you sign up with Actionable, your Xactimate the next day looks different because you purchased your active license with. But that's not delivered by way of Actionable. It's delivered because of an API call from our team at Actionable to Verisk, and then it pushes out to the user. And when they go to launch Xactimate, they're just picking. Remember the whole USA profile or nationwide profile? They're picking that Actionable profile. In that is our alerts. In that is the price list. Some people might not use the price list. It'll just be there. And so you go nuts. We're issuing it in all 164 regions every month. So we're committed to that, which is a heck of a lift. And so just expect 3 to 15 new line items every month coming from Actionable. And we're just going to try to solve problems. And we're going to also prune relentlessly where these line items might be cold if they're not delivering results. That could happen. For the first 12 months, while the prices and yields are settling, if the price changes significantly, that's a sign of the product working, not the product failing. And so that's us trying to settle with the industry about what the reasonable and customary cost should be. So I don't know, our product. How about that?
So, okay, good. I just want to know people to know where to go find this. So in all of this, the contractors will be saying, great, I got this new price list, I got these new items, I've simplified this process. Pushing through to the person writing the check, it's not Xactimate, and it's not you. What's your expectation for the insurance world accepting, buying in, or using, or is this for people who are not a part of any vendor program? It's their own personal custom price list item.
Yeah, I don't think the Actionable price list will be adopted within the program ecosystem immediately. I have a strong belief that 2 TPAs will fight for this price list because they want to bring this to carriers so they could have supremely consistency as it relates to the mitigation cost structure, and they could have faster estimatics and better cycle times. Yeah. They're going to go sell this, but that will take until next year. So for right now, Phil, this is for 80% of your claims, which are non-program work. I'm just painting with broad strokes. 80% of the work that flows in the industry is non-program. So it's for that. And keep in mind, as restorers, this is the beautiful part about being a restorer. Nobody's telling you need to buy a Phoenix DHU or a dry ease DHU. Nobody's telling you need to use Xactimate. You want to go use Symbility for your estimatics. Nobody's stopping you. Go for it if you think that's delivering financial results for your company.
Sure.
You have choice here. What line items you use, what software you use, otherwise. And don't let anybody tell you different. And so the carriers are obligated to respond to that because the policies and all the litigation associated explicitly precludes carriers from mandating one particular price list or product. Also, the carriers made their own bed here recently, Phil. They've shown up with this notion that Xactimate pays too much and we're going to have all these third parties coming out and coming up with new price lists that just all happen to pay less. Okay? So I will reserve name dropping all these companies that decided they wanted to get into the pricing game. But guys, there's 4 different price lists right now that are putting negative pressure on the Verisk published price list. And now as restorers, we're fighting just to hold on to an Xactimate published price list, which is I always thought was the baseline, Phil. I was like, okay, if you know nothing, that's your baseline. Okay. Meaning my pack out company in California, we're private client centric. We deviate from the price list by 17 to 25%, depending on what region that we're in. It's based on what we're actually paying our employees in that region. It's the bin justice in play. I think the most honorable, ethical way to do it, but we deviate from the price list. I'd be out of business charging Xactimate price list for doing content. Okay. So I think about Exact as a baseline price. Unfortunately, carriers have duped these other third parties into showing them, I have a new price list. Isn't it awesome? And it just pays less. And we're not getting involved in that game. But also, carriers can't tell us that you can't use the actionable profile and the actionable published price list if they're going to go and adopt all these other price lists on the other side. So can't have it both ways, folks. And so here we are. But fortunately for the carrier side of the house, Actionable is actually not trying to harm them. We're trying to give them what they want, but we're trying to make sure restorers can eat and remain solvent in the process.
That's remarkable. Some people call that the free market.
Well, I think what you and I observe is the free market attempting to play out in a non-free market environment. Yeah. Restorers perpetually are frustrated by carriers beating them up and rejecting scopes. But if that condition didn't exist, then there wouldn't be any space for the free market to try to play out in a non-free market environment. So I think anytime you have insurance, whether it's auto, health, or P&C, it's not a free market anymore. And you got to understand that. You got to come to terms with it, and you got to try to work within the confines of these sacred cows.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we talked a lot about the actionable profile. We talked a lot about actionable insights. Is there anything else you wanted to cover? We got some opportunities. So I love the whole new price list option and opportunity. I love that being breaking here this week that this is released. And so this is all great. Is there anything else that you got that is of benefit to the one thing after this too, when you talk about that, I do want to talk about some of the things coming down the road that restorers should be looking out for. But
Okay.
so products, services, things that you're doing that that people should be aware of and that we haven't discussed already.
Well, this is where do we find the edge, right? I think people tuned in because they're looking for an edge. Actionable has found 30% increase in output, Phil, measurably quantitatively as it relates to our rule development. So one big thing we work on is every month we will publish maybe 2 or 3 additional national carriers that we have rules for. Guys, we know the rules. We know what Nationwide wants. We know what Travelers wants. If you want to do the program work, boom, those rules are there. But historically, Phil, we've only been able to knock out 100 rules a week, and we've been knocking out fully Q through QA 140 for the last 2 months.
Wow.
Here's the edge. It's so lame. I wish there was a cooler answer for like how this is happening. Okay. But it's an enterprise plan from Anthropic, and Claude Cowork is really quite special.
Yes.
And we have had Gemini, and we've had Grok, and we've had OpenAI. Guys, just with the way Verisk is thrown in with Anthropic, you're as a restorer, you're just leaving money on the table. You're leaving efficiency on the table. Just get this product, Cloud Cowork, in the hands of your team. Phil, there's a lot of people that are going to be looking to you for guidance for like how do I leverage this like AI revolution? And I've gone back and forth. It's like, do I need outside consultants to come in? I'm interviewing 2 of them, Phil, to bring into my business. Guys, there's so much special work that if you just give these people the right tools, I as a leader don't know how to build the solution or guide them toward what they would actually need. You just need to get it in their hands as employees, and you need to trust them. You need to set up some governance for like how we're dealing with data. Are we dealing with memory, right? Where does this data go? You got to be thinking about that stuff, okay? But once you've done some basic blocking and tackling, get Claude, and then tell people to go duplicate themselves with the machine.
Yep.
Like, be the first one to tell me that they've totally duplicated their work and they only need to work 3 hours a week is the first person around me who's getting a major promotion, and I'm going to pay them twice as much, and then they're going to go around to every other department and help. So I'm not sure that it's going to be all outside consultants and fractionable AI support.
Yeah.
I am sure that you need a budget for it. So if you're not carving away 3% of your top line revenue for this transition towards leveraging this new form of labor, that's how I see AI, Phil. I don't see it as a technology. I see it as a new form of labor. And in ways it's dumb, and in ways it's brilliant. It's kind of the delta between how you think about a bird and an airplane. They both fly, but they do it so in very different ways, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to know what your humans are good at, and you got to know what your clankers, your bots are good at. And if you establish some understanding of that, you can create some big efficiencies within your businesses, guys. So that I know it's lame. I wish it was better. It's like buy Anthropic, but it's probably the best advice I can give you that's super real. Yeah. I'm not speculating. I'm telling you the data for how we've increased our output. And don't think that that's our only increase in output about rules. That's not the only thing we're doing. What do you think it's doing, Phil, to all of our marketing? And do you think my team maybe knows what signals for people that are following us on LinkedIn and they've liked and they've commented are likely to buy from us or not? Like, we are leveraging the machines, and I think restorers that are going to win the day are the ones that are going to be tech enabled and have a full-on system of action that guides restorers and really takes action for the benefit of restorers. So it's, how do I unify my tech stack under one pane of glass? It's all happening, but it's going to happen too around throwing in with the right software players. Like PSA is innovating a lot right now. Albi's always been innovating, and they've been that system of action. you won't be left behind if you're on the right job management platform. You know who else is making huge strides, dude, and faster than I've ever seen? Justin Jackman and Nick Sykes over here with this Restore program. I haven't used it much, but have you heard about this thing?
No.
Okay, dude, it's wild. They just went off and built another version of Xactimate for restorers that runs on modern browsers, so you can run it like on a Mac or a Chromebook, which is a huge flipping deal. And then they combined it with Claude such that there's a Claude connector, and so you can just in natural language go into the estimate and start building it out, right? It's like what we all want as Xactimate users.
Yeah.
But they built it. So Verisk has built that, and there's only not everybody knows about it, but like it's solving problems. So if you are not worried about doing program work and you're winning all your work on your own accord, then there's might be a lighter, faster, newer Xactimate out there for you. But again, as part of Restore is a job management platform too. So if you're on with the right job management platform, then you won't be left behind the way that we all probably have this like deep-seated fear. I feel that. I'm being left behind, right? I think we all feel that as leaders right now. But as long as you're on with somebody who is building and leveraging AI, then you won't be left in the dust. You got to remember 50% of restorers are still on pen and paper, Phil. It's crazy.
I'm surprised. Yeah, I've seen it.
Are you surprised? I'm surprised too, dude. Are you surprised?
It's a sophisticated industry. And so to see people that aren't really leveraging those resources out there, that haven't found just some basic stuff, the simple thing of using 3D imaging to capture job site data and then come back and get rid of your steering wheel time for a lot of your high value employees, some simple steps you can take. And I think that's important, but it's hard to see that. And, so we have a mutual friend in Florida that's got, he's just gone out and hired some young kids that know technology and said, learn our industry, figure out where we can apply some of this stuff. And so it wasn't a huge cost. It's got people playing with it. And so you can have a huge cost for cloud. It could be expensive if you're going to get some sort of a enterprise solution that allows you to access a bunch of technology. But I'm doing a bunch of it myself, and it cost me more than, I don't know, it's $30 a month or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's that. We're paying $200 and probably $200. No, we have $400 budget per person every month. So that's $200 a month for our plan, and then you get $200 of extra tokens. That's how we're running it per user, and it seems to be working out great for us. I'm the only one who blows through all my tokens.
It's pretty cheap right now. It's being subsidized. It's being subsidized by somebody else. So as long as it's pretty cheap, let's go ahead and take advantage of that, because it's going to get expensive. So while it's cheap, let's help build and do some stuff and kind of play around with it. And I think that's the opportunity that people should look at in their business. So, so we're getting long on time here, and it probably deserves a good 3-hour podcast. But we're gonna try to wrap it up here a little bit. What I want to do is come back. I want to review just a couple of things you talked about, how they're going to go find it, what they should expect or think about from a pricing model, things like that. So first of all, they're going to come find information on your estimating software, your actionable profile, and even actionable insights. So we're direct people to where they're going to find those and what they might expect from a pricing standpoint.
All right. So getinsights.org is where you'd find Actionable. You can just Google Actionable Profile Xactimate, you'll find it. And what you can expect for price structures are, if you subscribe to the annual plan, you're looking at maybe $90 a month, Phil, for a plus plan, $130 a month for a pro plan, which has everything that we've discussed here. And so that's what you'd be looking at in terms of becoming a member at Actionable. And I can say with confidence that if you use it on one estimate, it will pay for itself. I hate, it's just kind of a lame way to sell it, but like, it's true, you goofballs. Okay, so there's that. Also, what is lost in this part, pains me, Phil, is Actionable is doing really good work politically with the software providers, making sure that people remember where the pain is for restorers. We are constantly in the rooms where big decisions are being made. And we've done a lot of wonderful work over the years to preserve our ability to make a living and preserve our trade as being valuable. There's some people that are showing up from the TPA side, Phil, and they're not only assault against pricing by coming up with their own price list, but they're also basing that pricing on direct pricing where they become the general contractor and they're going direct to the sub.
Yeah.
And in so doing, saying that general contractors don't add value. And that's something where Actionable really holds the line, believing that they do add value. And that's what a policyholder is owed. So with that said, when you become a member of Actionable, yes, there is a product component. And that was important to me because I didn't want to have to show up and call Warner Cruise and be like, hey, can you cut a check for $5,000 to Actionable this year? You know, I didn't want that. I wanted to sell a product that added value, but there's a lot that Actionable is doing to preserve our ability to make a living and love our jobs. That's important to us, Phil. And so we strive towards that. And so I hope people recognize that when they become a Actionable member. It's not always just about the software. It might be about what we're doing to preserve our ability to make a living and love what we do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. One of the things I think about, the average restorer sits around and complains a lot about either this price list, this software, this program. You've created an outlet which allows at least a voice in the room that could influence those decisions and impact those. And so that's sort of the collective nature of what you're doing. I think that's really fantastic. And so here is a way in which people can make a change or do something different in the organization. I think that kind of makes it a no-brainer. The price point makes the second no-brainer. So I think all of those things make sense.
They can go take advantage of us, dude. They could do a monthly plan. Okay, yep. Phil? And then they don't have to pay anything. And then they can just go try it. And so there's a place to start. Like cool. If you're really confident in your software solution, the best thing to do is give it away for free. So we do that. So I don't know, go check it out. And then you'll know forever whether this would help you or not. But if I can show up and be credible enough to be invited on your podcast and say things like it's delivering passively 2% to your bottom line and you believe it all, anything that's come out of my mouth today, like probably you're obligated as a restorer to go take a look at it. Because if that's true, then how hard would it be otherwise to go find that and consistently and without friction? It's not just about driving up the price of your estimates, guys. Anybody can show up here and factor a price list or go throw in a bunch more line items. That's easy, okay? But it also doesn't work. It's about threading the needle for what's reasonable and customary and knowing exactly what line items bring a lot of pressure and scrutiny and knowing exactly what line items don't. And just going down the wild river that is claim settlement and like navigating around the rocks, not trying to carve through them because you're right. Like water does cut rock, Phil, but I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah. And 2% to the bottom line. Look at the restoration cost of doing business survey that has come out. And, last year, there's a lot of companies that, surprisingly enough, it's not everybody listening to this, but there's a lot of companies that are making 5% or less. You could add 30% to your net profit cash in the bank that allows you to reinvest in your staff, your people, survive, pay bills, get a bonus, pay taxes, do what you need to do with that money. And that's big money. So I encourage people to really take a deep look at that opportunity and try it out. And another free resource, I'm just going to say, I love watching your monthly updates. Thanks. Give a free video that's available on YouTube or get on the mail list, and you'll get it every month. And you can say, hey, here's this new one, Xactimate. And it's entertaining, interesting, and wow, why did Xactimate do that? I didn't know that. It's about time. So it's a great opportunity just to be educated on what's happening in the main software that's running all the revenue in your company. So
that's essentially an internal meeting that we've just made public because when Verisk every month, guys, they create like 9 to 15 new line items. They maybe delete 9 other line items and they change 30. And what that means for us when you're running 7,500 rules is we've got to make what are probably 300 to 400 what we call hot fixes every month to adjust for that. So it's not like we're ever done, Phil, with our work, right? We're always refining our price list. But what you're talking about is our plus video, the price list update summary for the Xactimate published price list. And we rip through it and we talk about what rules should exist and what line items are being adopted and how to leverage them. So keep an eye out for that. And otherwise, man, I'm just going to keep building, keep trying to solve problems for restorers. And I encourage, your audience. It's tough out there right now. I feel it too. Trust me. It's not lost on me. But all we can do is be resilient throughout this bit of a hardship in our industry, and be excited about the future. There will be another name storm, Phil. It will happen.
Yeah.
I feel it in my bones.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Exactly. So 2% every day. That's all we need. Okay. So appreciate that. You had mentioned to me before when we were talking off the podcast that you do have a discount with, and it's available through RIA. You can refer them and use the RIA discount. So for your services, how are they going to find that?
you know what, dude? We'll do this. We'll just I'll have the team create a coupon code for Restoration Edge. So why don't we do
Okay.
this on the fly? Why don't we give your listeners 60 days free? So we'll just
Oh
double
man.
the monthly. They can go have a look at our resources. That should give you guys enough time to evaluate the merits of it, and then we'll just do a special coupon codes. So it'll be Edge all caps underscore 60, and that'll be
Okay.
somewhere in the comments below. But that's what we'll create, and then that will
Yep.
deliver you your 60 days free with Actionable. And I don't know, give it a shot. I would deeply appreciate it.
Okay.
Most of my guys, this is a nonprofit. I'm doing this so you guys can see me at a conference and be like, hey, Whatley, it's made a big difference. Our business has improved because A, B, and C. I absolutely love that. I thrive on that. So that can't become real unless you guys at least try what we built. So we're
Yeah.
trying like hell to build something useful to you. And I think after the last 6 years, we actually have. This price list is new, guys. I don't know if this is
Yeah.
going to work for you, but holy crap, the actionable profile and actionable alerts, that shit's battle tested. It's great, and it's going to deliver results for you. So give it a shot.
Yeah, I've always found out if we can jump on after he's built something, it's going to go somewhere, and it's just been a great resource to the industry.
Thanks,
So
dude.
thanks for making a difference. Thanks for helping improve the
Likewise,
restoration industry.
you give more than you take, Phil.
All right.
Yeah, the Rosebrooks have given more. Dude, all the restorers, how much of restorers' lives been broadly improved by both the work of you, your father, and your staff. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So big deal, dude. Thank you for that, and keep paying it forward. I'll do the same.